Anyways, I think they can see us. I hope they can see us. Hey, A1 Midwest Transport is here. Awesome, brother. Thanks for being here, my dude. Okay, that means people can see us. We are live and good to go. I don't know how many people are going to run in. Happy New Year, A1. Welcome to Hotshot and Hindsight. That's kind of the name I picked. I thought it sounded pretty cool, especially because Trucking Truth used to be in Hotshot for a while and had some Hotshot guys. So Hindsight's kind of behind us because now he went back to semi. But it is what it is, right?
Yeah, it is what it is, man.
It is what it is, my dude. Okay, so, well, thank you so much for being here with me, my dude. It's a pleasure to have you on tonight. We're just gonna go over, basically some questions, kind of chit chat, answer some questions for the people in chat. But when was it that you first got started in the trucking industry, or how was it you first got started in the trucking industry?
Let's see. I started back in 2006, so it's been 14 years now.
14 years. And what made you say, I want to be a trucker? I want to own my own company.
Well, it wasn't really I want to be a trucker. I was actually working for a moving company, and at the time they had a program that they were sponsoring guys to get their CDLs, and it was kind of like at the next step in that particular career, and I took advantage of it, and ever since then I stayed with it.
There you go. So did you work for that company for a long time, or you kind of like, I just kind of want to get some experience from them, and then I want to open up my own company, get my own authority? Were you ever leased on with anybody else?
Yeah. Actually, I wasn't a company driver for very long, and I have to say I've probably not stayed with any one company for a very long time. I've always considered this a business. Once I was a lease operator for the first time, then I just recognized it as a business. This isn't. A lot of people want to stay with companies to show longevity and dedication, and it's business. I've got a truck, I've got bills I got to pay. We're in a relationship. You have freight, you need trucks. I have a truck, I need freight. So if the freight wasn't going that great, and I would watch the patterns and the trends, and if I started to see that the numbers would start to fall off, then I would move on to the next best thing. But at the same time, I also wanted to get a lot of experience in different areas. So I would stay with each division long enough to where I felt comfortable to move on to the next one. So I went from bed bugging to flatbed to oversized super loads, van, reefer, and just kept moving along until I built the experience that made me feel comfortable to go out and get and start my own company.
No, that's awesome. And I look, the way I'm in it is kind of like the opposite, right? So like I don't have too much experience with trucking, but I have a good amount of experience with business, right? So I kind of look at it more from like the business aspect. And I kind of want to get on the topic first off about like leasing on with a company and, going and getting your own authority. First, I'm basically going to say what I think, and then Trucking Truth, if you could say what you think on it. But so the way I look at it is the way I got into Hotshot, the way I got it to even learn about trucking. A lot of you guys already know the story. But I have a friend who he bought a truck. He bought a trailer, he hired a driver, and then he basically leased on with his dad. And so he's my age. I think he's like 22 years old, and he's pulling about $2,000 or $3,000 a week, on his truck. And I think he has a flatbed. It's a semi truck, obviously. And he was telling me about this, and I thought we could do this. I have a friend who he's big into business, so I start YouTubing everything, figuring out what we needed to do, getting everything in a row. And we didn't even know about leasing on. Like I didn't know that he had leased on. All I knew was I needed authority, so we filled the paperwork out. And then as we kind of started to hit speed bumps and I started talking to him more, he's like, well, my dad's already had a trucking company for about 20 years, so I'm just using his MC number, and he gave me one of his drivers. So I started realizing how easy it was for him compared to us. And then obviously we went to go buy a semi truck, and I don't have a CDL. The guy that owns the other guy that owns the business doesn't have a CDL, and I had sold cars at the time, so I'm like, no, it's 60 grand. We got $10,000 put down. We have good credit scores. We're walking out with a truck, no problem. Then they're like, hold up, bro. They're like, listen here, this is commercial finance. This is not a game. These banks are not going to give you guys money because you can't even drive the truck. And I said, flip.
Yeah.
So that's something I didn't know. And then fast forward 6 months, we had our authority, but it wasn't instated. We were kind of just waiting to see what we are gonna do. And somebody said something about Hotshot, and I said, that's not commercial finance. Like I just go buy F-350 right now. So that's what we ended up doing. But I didn't even know what leasing on was, and I think the big thing for me was I wanted to build something tangible, right? Because I feel like when you lease on with a company, and let's say you're a super good driver, a super hard worker, you're doing everything in their name, right? You could have years of experience with the company, and their MC number is going to look super good because every time you get pulled over, you don't have any infractions because you care a ton, But the minute that you want to go on your own and get your own authority, it's like starting from level zero. It's like you don't have any experience at all. So I think
It
a lot of
is, and
people.
it is.
Yeah. A lot of people just need to realize that when you get your own authority, like you're kind of building, the good and the bad is going to come with it, right? Because it's all going to fall on you at the end of the day. But you're building your business, right? Like that the age of that authority is going to reflect on you as a business owner. So that's the way I look at it. I don't know how you look on it.
Well, I mean, you touched on a couple of topics that, one, I know that a lot of people, especially in the hotshot industry, don't realize, one, the difference, and two, that it's a possible thing, like leasing on. Like owner-operator is its own title. That means you've got your own authority, you're doing your own thing, your own MC number. Lease operator is when you're leased under somebody else's authority. And for those who don't have the experience dealing with the brokers, the rate confirmations, maybe some people have never even been outside of their own state even to go out and jump in and get your own authority and put out all that working capital, get a truck, get the insurance, and then try to figure out how to operate a load board and go through all those processes. For some is where they end up failing. So the lease option, I always say it's better to lease on with somebody at least for a little period of time, instead of just going straight full force into getting your MC number, just because there is so much in this business to get a grasp on, especially in the CDL aspect of things. Because really, there's not much difference between CDL and non-CDL when it comes to the DOT and the FMCSA. The biggest difference is your weight rating and the fact that you don't need an IRP plate. But the rest of the rules and regulations all stay the same. You're still liable for the same equipment. You're still liable for the safety of everybody else on the road and maintaining that vehicle safety and everything. So I always say that it's better to lease on for a little while. But the problem for hotshots, especially, is that there aren't a lot of customers, or not customers, but a lot of companies out there that you can lease on to that are worth it. And I say that just because there's a few companies out there that I checked into when I was first looking to get into the hotshot, and just their contracts, their percentages, and what they're expecting their drivers to do, and what they were offering for the percentage that they were taking, just never made sense to me. It seemed more like a racket, more like a scam, and because realistically, there's an industry standard when you're dealing with semis when it comes to leasing on with companies. There's certain things that the company provides for that percentage that you're getting. And I see on a lot of the Facebook forums and stuff like that, that there's a lot of companies out there that want to charge you 15 or 20% just to run under their flag, and then another 5 or 10% for dispatching. And like, you guys are literally robbing these people, and it's no wonder that so many hotshots fail when they go to lease on with somebody, because there's a lot of crooks out there. And personally, I just think that it's despicable. Really, it is.
Yeah, no, for sure.
There is a standard out there when it comes to the breakdowns and numbers and everything, and it's like they're trying to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think one thing that's different really with Hotshot is as a dispatcher, right? Because my job clearly is we hired a driver, so my job is I dispatch the truck. I make sure he's good all the time. I talk to all the brokers. I take all the phone calls. I set up all the carry package, all that stuff, right? And what I've seen is, kind of controlling the funds and see where the money is. It's like, I think a lot of times a bad week in semi can still cover expenses, can still be pretty good, but a bad week in hotshot can really hurt you depending on the week, right? And I think when we're looking at leasing on is like, because hotshot, you're looking at a much smaller number than you are in semi. For example, for you, Trucking Truth, what would be a good month in your semi, gross-wise, would you say?
We kind of run a dedicated route now.
Okay.
But we typically are bringing in roughly between $5,800 and $6,200 a week per truck gross.
Okay.
So, I mean, for that would probably, if we were able to squeeze in an extra run, and we just choose to take, the time off and spend time at home on the weekends. But I would say it'd probably be roughly in about the $8,000 mark, because if I took an extra 2 loads out of the week, an extra run period, I would be able to bring in an extra $2,000 or so. So yeah.
So you're looking a good week, $8,000. I mean, you're talking let's just say 35,000 for the month, just like a good number to throw out there. And I
Yeah.
mean, when you're talking Hotshot, I mean, a lot of times, a good week in Hotshot, I mean, a good month in Hotshot, I don't know how much you made when you were doing Hotshot, but you see a lot of guys post maybe 23, 24, 25,000 a month. But a lot of these months, especially during this time, you're talking 16, 17, 18,000, maybe even less. I mean, I know for us personally, we did, I think, 13,500, taking time off for Christmas this month and for New
Sure.
Year's. And, when you're, so like the risk factor for these companies is still the same no matter what, when you're leasing on.
It
But
is.
it's
It is.
when you're doing Hotshot, you're making so much less money. They're making less money off you, but they're having the same exact risk that they're having if you were a semi truck, but they're making a lot less money. So like lease on and Hotshot is really just this weird game where it's like, is it even worth for me to lease somebody onto my company? Because I mean, I don't know if I trust this guy, and he's not going to bring me enough money in the long run, anyways. And he might just have a lot of problems with like DOT or something. Is it even worth it? And then the driver's like, is it even worth getting my own authority? So I feel like we're in this like constant battle a lot of times between, is it worth leasing on? Is it worth getting your authority? Because, Hotshot doesn't really gross the numbers that a semi truck does, That's kind of how I look at it.
When we first started our business, that's what I started with, was Hotshots. And I personally, I hung up the keys and picked up a keyboard, and I was dispatching all the drivers. Plus, I actually ran a dispatch service for a little while as well. And you're spot on when you say the risk, because we had at one point in time we had six or seven drivers that were running under our flag, leased on to us, doing Hotshot, just strictly Hotshot, both CDL and non-CDL. And what I realized in a quick time frame was that, just like you said, the risk wasn't worth the reward, because the revenue that we were making on the trucks wasn't worth when I had a driver. That got a claim. And it was in Michigan. Now, it wasn't the driver's fault. Okay, he was in the right. He was parked. He was waiting, and the other person struck his truck.
Yeah.
And when insurance had to pay out, it was in Michigan. Now, warning to all you guys out there, whether you're Hotshotters or not, it's semi truck or Hotshot, it doesn't matter. Michigan has this ridiculous no fault policy when it comes to commercial insurance, and even though we got struck by the other vehicle and had no fault in it whatsoever, both policies had to pay out. And it sucks, because the next year came around, and when it came time to renew our insurance, I was looking to get more competitive rates. And because we had a claim in the first 12 months, I wasn't able to go with anybody else but the current carrier that we were with, and it was very frustrating, even though it wasn't our fault. So because Michigan has this weird policy, I always, ever since this, I'm gun shy of Michigan. I prefer to just avoid Michigan altogether. I have a list of states that I don't go to, and it still hasn't hurt me at all.
Yeah, for sure.
But Michigan, with this, it threw me for a loop, that I had my policy had to pay out to repair, and so did the other person's insurance policy. And for me, as a new starting company, that didn't do me any justice. And then we had other situations where I had a driver lose a canopy off of a military trailer. It's one of the small little military trailers that normally go behind like the Humvee, have this big hard top canopy on it. And you're supposed to bolt them down when you pick them up. You're supposed to check all the stuff. Well, he was a non-CDL guy. He was a younger kid, and he was a little newer. And, even though I try to coach everybody through everything, people are going to tend to take things on their own. And he did. And he didn't secure the canopy to the trailer. He didn't check to make sure it was secured. And he lost it somewhere down the road. Now, we didn't get a claim on that. But if we did get a claim on it, that would have just been another situation. And then that same driver also got a few violations with his truck, and got us some CSA points on top of it. And so that started to bring us to that threshold with CSA points, where we were right on the brink of not being able to be worked with, just because we were such a small company, such a new company, such a small amount of trucks, and the amount of points that he racked up was outside of that threshold for our size company. So and then COVID hit. So it's just COVID, whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
Just COVID. That's all we'll say about that.
100%.
But it's like you said, the risk just wasn't worth the reward with what we were making off of each Hotshot, because I wasn't charging large percentages. I'm not that person who wants to, come and try to rob people out here. I was only doing an 85-15 split, and 15% of $1,500 or $2,000 a week on a non-CDL semi or some non-CDL hotshot just wasn't really all that great. But there's definitely money to be made in hotshot if you're doing it yourself. But if you're going to be looking to lease drivers on, it's risky. It really is. It really is. There's a lot more risk than in a semi truck, because there's so many checks and balances in the semi world between the SIDLIS systems, the PSP reports, the CSA scores, and then obviously insurance. But there are checks and balances in the semi world that help to keep drivers a little more honest, and it's not so much an honor faith system. In hotshot, it's more of an honor faith system. I mean, yeah, you can run their MVR, but if they're non-CDL, that's all you can do is run an MVR. You can't see if they've had issues in the past with other companies, and so it's kind of a roll of the dice, really.
No, for sure. I think one thing, I mean, we're kind of doing as a company, and I've been looking in, because we're looking to lease on. Obviously, I want to grow the business. I want this to become bigger. And one thing we were doing is I want to be able to give people the opportunity to start up in hotshot, right? Like, I'm not going to lease somebody onto my business that is going to stay with me for a really long time, because I don't really want that. What I want is to give the ability for somebody to start up in hotshot, and I want to be able to provide them services in the long run, right? Like, maybe you lease on with my company for 3 months, and then I dispatch you for the next year, or we have somebody dispatch you with the company, right? Like, work with people to help them grow their businesses. And I think, for example, if you provide people with other services than just just dispatch, you provide them with other services, just taking your cut or whatever. Because really, when we do it, I'm thinking, well, let me cover half of your insurance for the month, because I know you're a newer driver. I know it's super expensive for you. So we're going to take a little higher cut, but we're covering half of your insurance. We'll help you get all your equipment, so we'll cover half the equipment cost, and like, obviously it's going to be covered in the cut in the long run. But I think if we offer a little bit like that, and this is kind of what my mindset is, I don't know how you think about it, but something I was thinking about, if I can help them with the startup, then, I can really pick and choose who I'm going to lease onto the company and really believe in the person, and be like, this is who I want to represent my company. This is what I'm going to offer you. This is why you should represent my company. And this is why you should do the best job possible. And me as the guy sitting behind the desk is like, my thing is I go with somebody for a week. Like, if you're leasing onto my company, or if you're driving the truck, I'm with you for at least a week over the road, at least like three trips. Because I think a lot of times too is we don't set the standard. A lot of times we think the people already have the standard, right? And so it's like when I go with them, I'm like, hey man, this is how we strap down the loads. This is how we tarp down the loads. I don't care where you learn how to do it, but this is like the least. This is like the least. What's the word I'm trying to say? This is like the entry level way of doing it. Like, you cannot go below this, and this is how we do this. This is how we do that. This is how we talk to the people that are loading, and I like helping people out and kind of set that standard for them and just be like, this is what's going to happen. So, I mean, that's kind of how I look at it. I don't know if you've had any experience with that in your business, just somebody coming in saying, I know everything, and then kind of not being on par with what was happening.
In the semi world, every truck driver knows everything. Yeah. Number one. They all know everything. But no, actually, I had the same idea when I started my company. I wanted to have a place where hotshots can come and make that step and use it as a stepping stone, as it is. Go from non-CDL to CDL to semi-truck, because realistically, I mean, there are a handful of guys out here that have been doing hotshot and continue to do hotshot, and that's what they do, and that's it. But a majority of hotshotters eventually end up in a big truck, because that's where the money is, that's where the security is, that's where all the freight is. But what I realized is that until you have the establishment and the ability to actually do hands-on training with these guys, it's going to be a huge risk, The reason I say that is because if you can't bring these guys in and actually do a hands-on training on how to secure, how to fill out their logbooks, how to, understand the DOT regulations, what are the do's and don'ts when it goes to coming into a weigh station and doing a DOT inspection, and what to expect when you're doing that, then you're going to have more failure than success, because that is what the semi-truck companies do. Every company that you sign on to in the semi world has an orientation process. All your mega carriers, their orientations are typically 3 days. You know, they put you up in a hotel, they bring you there, they sit down, we go over all the paperwork, contracts, insurance, boom, that's out of the way. Now we start talking about exactly how this company expects you to operate. For example, like, not all companies allow you to use personal conveyance on your logs. Some companies will have a 50-mile radius that you're allowed to use, and that's it. Other companies might limit it to, say, 100, 200 miles per day. And then some companies like Schneider, I don't know if Schneider does it anymore, but I know Schneider at one point in time would not allow you to use it at all. I do know that Schneider will not allow you to use the 7-3 split that is in the new hours of service. They will not allow you to use it, period. They just, you got your 11 and your 14, and that's it. They don't allow you to do split sleeper berth at all. And you have no choice. You know, you're running under that company's flag, so you need to follow their rules, like your e-log rules. You know, will you let somebody use PC? And if so, what are your guidelines? And are they outside the DOT's guidelines? So without doing hands-on training for these guys, it's going to be a risk. And that's where I had to kind of throttle it back a little bit. And then COVID hit. But
yeah.
Then COVID hit, but that was exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to give Hotshots a place to go. I still want to do that. I'm actually actively looking to see what I can do and what steps I have to take, because I have the experience. I know there's a couple of forms I have to fill out, but I'm actually looking to see what I can do to start my own truck driving school, and also incorporate Hotshot training in there, because every CDL school across the nation only focuses on one thing, semi-truck. And they're going to teach you either on a flatbed or on a reefer or on a van, but nobody ever teaches guys how to do it in a Hotshot, unless they're operating some little back operation where they're, you know, teaching you how to take your test in a CDL Hotshot truck just to be able to get into a semi-truck.
Sure.
Which there are some schools out there that try to pull those little games, but I don't want that, because this is a lifestyle for me. It's not just a career. I've been doing it so long. My family's out on the road. Your family's out on the road. And to shortchange a driver and not give him the proper training and then set him out on the road, I think is just outright despicable for the business. And you're just putting people's lives at risk, and that's it. Yeah. So I want to be able to provide that same stepping stone that you're talking about, but I personally think that you have to provide the training. You're not going to have a great success when you have a lot of people out there that don't know what they're doing, and then you on the office side are going to run into a lot of issues where you're trying to dispatch guys and you have people waiting for freight, and then you got a driver calling you every 10 minutes, different drivers each time, saying, hey, how do I strap this, or how do I load this, or hey, I just got pulled in for an inspection, what am I supposed to do, what do I got to give?
No, for sure.
Hold on a second, I got a question here just popped up. Let's see, what are the best way to learn securement and tarping? Well, you can get the Securement handbook from the truck stops. It gives you the rules and regulations for every type of freight, whether it's square, what do you call it? Square wood, panels, pipe, vehicles, heavy machinery. It gives you all the best, not the best, but the DOT requirements for load securement. As far as tarping, I would just suggest watch some videos. Tarping is just very similar to wrapping a Christmas present. Now, I'm better at tarping than I am at wrapping a Christmas present. So my wife would attest to that. I do cherry bombs when it comes to wrapping Christmas presents.
For sure.
But you give me a 10-foot wide load that's 15 feet at the top and 4 feet at the bottom. I swear to God, it's going to have crispy corners, man.
I'll tell you this. Now, so a funny story there is, like, so what we did was, we wanted to find the perfect non-CDL hotshot trailer, right? And so we drove 1,500 miles to pick up our trailer, okay? We drove from southern Utah to Alabama.
That's dedication.
Yeah, we drove to Alabama. I mean, it was 35 plus 5, weighed about 7,000 pounds, had 7,000 pound axles, GVWR 14,000, derated at 12,000, and it was only $9,000, brand new, right? Some small outlet in Alabama. We saw it on eBay. We're like, this is the one we need, right? So I made sure that the minute we picked up that trailer, we could start hauling freight, right? So we picked up that trailer. We got our annual inspection done on the trailer, and then we started hauling freight back. But it was crazy because we were both new in the business, right? I had never pulled a 40-foot gooseneck before. My driver had never pulled a 40-foot gooseneck before. Like, he was our he was one of my good friends, right? We wanted him to help us out with the business, right? So we started going, man, and we drove maybe a day just driving the trailer around, taking as wide as possible. And I've realized when you're pulling a gooseneck, if you go as wide as possible, you're gonna be good. You know, you watch the wheels, and it helped us out a lot there. But I remember going to our first load, and we had all new equipment. Everything we owned was brand new, right? And we picked up this load, and it was a good partial. It was paying like $1.40 a mile going to Dallas from Memphis, Tennessee, and we picked it up, and we got there and we had to chain it down, and I'll tell you, neither of us knew how to use a chain binder. Like, we had no idea, bro. I was like, we're definitely going to be...
Should have watched my video.
Listen. I was like, we're definitely just going to be able to do it, man. And so, like, we're sitting there. We're like, it's not working. We're like, let's go throw up a video. So he, like, went in the truck, watched the video, came out. I went in the truck, watched the video. We're like, we got this. And we strapped it down real tight. I mean, chained it down real tight.
Were they snap binders?
No, ratchet binders, of course, my guy. I never use a snap. Yeah, right. We do that much, right? So, and I mean, because I'm the kind of guy, I jump into head first, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm ready to go. Like, I'm real good at learning on the process and stuff. But after a couple weeks, you know, my driver we were out on the road together for about a week and a half doing everything together. You know, I was out backing him up when he was pulling the truck. I was out helping him make tight turns. Like, and once, after about a week and a half of that, we both felt very comfortable with driving the vehicle, with making the turns we needed to make, with strapping, tarping, and chaining. And that's just what we needed, right? And then it's been 3 months since then. And I mean, that guy drives, and he is just so good at driving, so good at strapping, so good at tarping, so good at doing everything, right? And it made me, like, you know, learning from him and doing my research, man. Like, people don't realize the power of research on the internet. It's like, you don't know how to strap, how to, like, use a ratchet. YouTube, how to use a 4-inch ratchet. You know, YouTube, how to use a chain binder. YouTube, how to secure a forklift. Because you're going to start learning just from these videos, and then, you know, if you have the equipment at home, just start practicing on stuff, you know, just start practicing, ratcheting it down, getting it tight, you know, and through that, you know, you're going to be able to learn a lot.
But you have to be careful. You have to be careful with the YouTube videos, because there are a lot out there that are, oh, well, this is how I do it, and that's not necessarily how you're supposed to do it. For sure. For example, when you're securing heavy machinery, especially like a forklift, right? They've got actually a little pin in the back, and you can just run one chain through there and do 2 short chains that way. But what a lot of guys do is I'll see them take one chain on one side and go caddy corner, and then chain on the other side and go caddy corner, and that's great. But what a lot of people don't realize is those chains aren't allowed to touch. You're not allowed to have actual contact between the 2 chains. You can put anything you want between those 2 chains to keep them separated, but you cannot allow them to touch, because the DOT automatically considers that half working load limit.
No, for sure.
So that's the only thing you got to watch out, and that's why I always tell everybody to get that load book securement handbook. It's like $10. You pick it up at just about any truck stop. TAs and Petros pretty much always have them on stock. If you can't find them there, you can go to JJ Keller's and order them from JJ Keller's. That's the people who publish all your DOT and FMCSA materials. And get that. And it tells you everything you need, whether you're hauling lumber, steel, pipes, cars, machinery, forestry equipment, containers even. It shows you all that, because like a lot of people don't even realize that, you know, if you have a loaded container, it has to be completely on a flat deck. Nothing can hang off. Empty containers, they give you a little leadway on an empty container, but there's very little leadway. For sure. But, again, that book is like the Bible for securement. That's hands down. That is the Bible.
That's the most important too. I mean, understanding the DOT regulations, FMCSA, like. When we were driving that first week, you know, I was just feeding him all the different rules. I was like, oh, did you know this? Did you know that? Did you know this? And, like, we were making sure that we both understood the rules completely and be able to go from there. But, yeah, it was a wild ride. Yeah. But, I mean, here we are today. You know, that's something that's super awesome. I think a lot of people go in really scared. You know, I think a driving school would help a lot of people, you know, strapping down different loads. And just to give them the level of belief in themselves, you know, the level of self-confidence to be able to say, I can get it done, you know, and that's something I think.
It makes a big difference. The confidence is going to play a big part in what you're doing, and because my one non-CDL driver, John, when he went to get his CDL, he went to a school down in North Carolina somewhere, and they were giving out this great discount because of COVID. And Well, let's just say he got what he paid. Because when he came to me and I took him out on his first driving test, I was like, okay, here, go ahead and hook up to the trailer. Well, he starts asking me a bunch of questions. You know, what do I got to do? This, that, and the other thing. And I'm like, you should already know this. You literally just came out of school, and we'll come to find out the school that he went to, supposedly that was one of the things that they would not allow the students to do was actually couple and uncouple the trailers because of insurance. Insurance don't care about
yeah.
None
I feel like that was a scam.
Okay. So,
they're like, we're gonna let you do everything but drive the truck.
Would rather you do it
They're
right.
gonna do everything but drive the truck. You can watch, just watch. You pay me, you can watch.
Yeah.
Sit the side. Like you're not driving the truck though.
Exactly.
No.
Exactly. So it baffled me. But there's that's the other thing is that there literally are only a handful of schools nationwide that have a reputation of putting out safe, reliable drivers, whereas the rest are fly-by-nights. They have revolving doors. They could care less whether you graduate or not, and they can care less what you do with your CDL when you leave
for
there.
Sure. Yeah, I think and that's the because with non-CDL Hotshot, it's something I really like doing non-CDL Hotshot. I think it's a great way to, like you said, a building block to get your CDL, to get into the semi-truck era. But what I would like to see, and this is what I'm trying to do as a company, is set the standard, the company standard, right? Because you have the mega carriers in the semi industry, or like really big carriers that basically set the company standard. Like you said with the percentage, right? They're people can't offer these crazy percentages because they're going to be drowned out by all the other companies that set the standard, right? So I think if we set a standard of what a hotshot company is, exactly what a hotshot company represents, because there's no mega carriers, it's just people who may have, like, I think Strong Hotshot might have eight trucks leased on, so I'd say he's probably one of the biggest hotshot companies out there right now. And so you can definitely set.
Which one is that?
Strong Hotshot, D-Nice? You watch his YouTube at all?
No. I know you got 101. Was it 101 Hotshot? They're up in the Northeast somewhere. There was another one down in Oklahoma somewhere for a while. Then you got Acme, which Acme is primarily oil and gas field stuff. And then I think there was another small one down there in the Texas, Oklahoma area that had quite a big fleet of Hotshots, but they weren't more or less hotshots like what we are talking. They're more strictly oil field type hotshots, the traditional hotshots, I should say, because that's really where it started, was it and all that. But even those guys, when the oil field goes down, so do most of their drivers.
No, for sure.
So it's a sad situation.
Exactly. So I mean, for my company, my goal is to set the standard. Give opportunity to people who might not have opportunity elsewhere, and just set the standard for what hotshot is. And I think that's something that's super important. Now, for you,
I think we need to raise the standard for hotshots.
No, 100%. That's for sure.
Because there's just, you see a lot of hotshots that just come out here, and I'm not trying to rag on a hotshot because I always say we're all drivers. We're all doing the same job, just in different sized vehicles. It's no different from a regular MD and a brain surgeon. One just went to specialized training is all he did. Still doctors. Doesn't make you any less of a doctor. So just because you're doing hotshot doesn't make you any less of a truck driver. But the standard needs to be raised for hotshots. And then I believe by raising the standards in the hotshots and putting more reliability, less claims, and less crashes due to lack of experience and knowledge, but less of that will actually raise the hotshot industry to higher than what it is right now, which is more or less a niche market. It is a really small niche market. And if we can work together between guys like you, me, Toe Piglet, and a couple other guys, if we can all work together to raise the standard for the hotshot industry as a whole, it'll better everybody's pocket. It'll better everybody out there, period. Because, I mean, you see like these car haulers, with the 3-car wedge, you know how many guys I see driving down the highway got only one car on their trailer and it's sitting all the way up on the top deck. Like, dude, you realize what you are doing to your center of gravity?
Yeah.
Like, you literally are increasing your risk of a crash by 50% just because you have it on top. Oh, but it gives me more down pressure on my drive tires. Do you need more down pressure on your drive tires? Do you need 4,000 or 7,000 pounds on your drives right now? No. No, you don't.
Yeah, no.
And you'll see the first guy that ends up rolling over is the guy with the car on top.
No, that's one thing. Like, I think I'm getting a little bit of. Let me close this out. I can hear myself. Okay, I think we're good now.
You getting some feedback?
I was getting a little feedback, but we're good now. So yeah, I've seen that, and like what I've realized now from having basically my own trucking company, work with my friend, is I cannot watch videos of crashes. Like I cannot. I see guys. I saw this video of a guy. He had a 3-car hauler. He had the Hotshot. He had the car at the top. The dude just straight tipped over. I closed out the video. I'm like, I am not a part of this. I was like, I feel so bad for that guy. If he would just put the car down, and I've seen it time and time again, and I can't handle it. Because I'm just like, when you're new in the business, right? Like the one thing that's going to destroy you is a claim. Especially when you're brand new. Having big. Like if you're a small business, like we're just one truck right now. Obviously we're growing. I'm dispatching other trucks. Like we're moving in the right direction. But if our truck just breaks down, like our motor blows, or if we get a claim, like I don't know what the future of our company is, And so, and that's when I hire a driver, like the guy we have going right now, I want him to know, man, like our company, I want him to feel like our company rests in his shoulders. Like it is on his shoulders, Like when he's out there representing our company, driving that truck, he's not just an employee, he's not just a driver, but he is our company. He's way more than our company than I am, to an extent. Because he's out there representing who we are, And I think a lot of drivers don't understand that, and they just basically do what they want to do, And I think that can be a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was one thing that I try to get the guys that were running for me for the period of time to understand is that if you have issues here, you're going to have issues anywhere else. So do it right the first time, and you won't have any problems. But at the same time, you're representing me, and so I had a pseudo type of orientation that I would try to do. But I'll admit, I laxed where I should have been a little bit more attentive to detail and took time to actually train the guys a little bit more. And that's why I said, I had to kind of roll things back because I was trying to go headstrong. All right, come on, we got our authority, we got our authority, we got our insurance. I got me some drivers to come fly under our flag. I was like, all right, cool, we got drivers. Boom, 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 let's go. And all of a sudden, I start getting phone calls and a claim, and hey, I lost this camper topper, and then this thing went flying off that way, and oh, I broke my trailer, and then oh, I just got some guy to weld it on the side of the street. I'm like, wait, what? You did what? Hold on, weld what? And it just. I realized that there was a lot more to pay attention to than just getting your DOT numbers and getting out there, man. There really is. There's so much that I had to consider. And like I said, there's no real training for hotshots. There really isn't. And personally, I'm trying to take that on my shoulders and say, okay, well, let's try to make something happen. So I've been actively looking to see what I've got to do. With COVID and all that, the DMVs and all that have been so crazy, sporadic, opened, and just with general business, I haven't been able to go and fill out these forms that I've got to fill out. But it's a plan that's in the works is to actually get a driving school. I've got a semi, I've got a pickup truck. All I got to do is get another trailer, and that would be good for the hot shots. And then I just got to get either a flatbed or a van, which I can get access to those not too far from me, pretty cheap. And then I can establish a nice training school for both. And in that way, like you were saying, as a stepping stone. Yeah. Most of the guys that I hired on, I told them, like, look, I don't expect you to stay with me forever. I didn't stay with companies forever, so I don't expect nobody to stay with me forever. And if you're coming in from a CDL aspect, I actually would rather you start to work your way up to the next level. Go from non-CDL to CDL hotshot, or go from non-CDL to, semi-truck. It's a little skeptical when you do that and you go from just driving a little pickup truck to driving a big pickup truck. There's, some differences to it. Weight is a big thing.
Yeah, you need to go.
The way the trucks drive is another.
Yeah, you need to go F350 to F650, then to semi-truck, okay?
Yeah. But it's something that I feel that it should be, the more or less the standard. Like I can't see. Unless you're retired and you're not really looking to do anything major, and you're just coming out here to see the sites and whatever. And there's a lot of older guys that want to do that. I had an older guy work for me. He was doing the enterprise program, and for him the enterprise program was working great because he was basically retired, didn't really have a whole lot of bills, and so having that high enterprise payment was okay for him. But at the same time, he was just complacent where he was. And some guys are like that. That's fine. But for the standard, the average guy, I think it should be progressive.
For sure.
You know, you shouldn't want to come out here with Hotshot and just kind of get, just kind of stick where it is, just because the hotshot business it's like a fall off backup. You know, it's pretty much where, you know, all this freight has gone out and all we have left is this little piece of steel. It needs to still make it out that way. So it's kind of, like a fall. They basically call it a fall off truck is what it is. You know, you're kind of picking up the pieces more.
You're helping out.
Yeah, you're helping out. So you don't get some of the securities that you would in the semi industry, you know, because there are just endless loads for the semi trucks, whether you're doing flatbed, van, reefer, it doesn't matter. There's just endless loads, and there's more support when it comes to the slow seasons than you will see in the hotshot game. You know, with hotshots, when it gets slow, it gets slow.
Yeah.
You know, like you were saying earlier, wintertime, especially in the wintertime, you know, it gets slow for all flatbeds, period. But for hotshots, because it's more or less, you know, you're picking up the scraps that are left over, more or less. I mean, there's really no other way to say it. I wish there was a nicer way to say it, but it really is. You know, you're just getting what's left over.
No, for sure.
And when it gets slow, even what's left over tends to disappear really quickly. And you got to be on top of your game when you're dispatching even just one truck, let alone multiple trucks. So it should be a progressive thing, man, because it's only going to better you and better your company. And even if you stay with hotshots, which I still would like to bring on some hotshots again, but not without a thorough training course for them to make sure everybody's doing it the right way. But, you know, if you have hotshots and big trucks, then you can actually cater to your customers a little bit better. So that way, when fall off does happen, hey, I got a truck that could take care of that for you, no problem. You know,
for sure. I think, you know, everything you said is completely right. And I think if we have that mindset, and like we want to hire people who have that mindset, right? I mean, obviously you're going to get some people who, like I posted just online a little bit ago looking for a driver for my setup, right? For everything. You're just going to be paid per the mile, you know, you're a driver. And I had a lot of people hit me up. I have 25 years plus experience. I've done this, that, and the other. I'm looking for employment, you know, basically saying like, please hire me. And that's fine. And I think it's awesome you have a lot of experience, but with 25 years of experience, why haven't you, you know, built your own business? You know, why are you, you know, what is the reason for you just wanting to drive, you know, or what happened with all the other companies you worked for, you know? And I think when you go on this progression thing, like if I have 25 years of experience in Hotshot, you know, I hope after those 25 years, I have a company with at least 10 or 15 Hotshots going, you know, at least, or a couple semi trucks, you know? So I think, especially if you're looking to get into Hotshot, everybody who's watching this, I think as a person who is actively hiring people, you know, especially with Trucking Truth, he's actively hiring people as well. You know, for me, I'm always looking for people who want to grow with the business, but want to grow themselves ultimately. Like, I think when people are motivated and have a reason to be doing what they're doing, they do a way better job. You know, and I think if you can say, today I'm gonna be driving a Hotshot, but in 3 years I want to have 2 trucks. You know, I want to have my own business. You know, and that lets me know that you're going to want to do the best job possible because you're looking at your future, you know? And so you don't want any problems to happen in my business.
There's one thing, there's another thing that you can do that I always try to encourage my guys. Like, I got a buddy of mine who runs for me, and I'm trying to encourage him to do the same thing. They don't necessarily have to just go out and get their own MC, because I will be honest, when you take that step to get your own MC, there's a lot of responsibility that immediately falls on your shoulders. Mm-hmm. And not everybody wants all of that additional stress in their life. So having somebody who wants to continue to grow with the company and also establish their own fleet is something else that is an option. And that's something that you see in a lot of the semi companies like Landstar, Bennett, Admiral Merchants. These are all companies, Mercer Transportation. These are all companies that have people like yourself and myself that don't want their authority. They don't want all that nonsense. Mm-hmm. The IFTA, the IRPs, the taxes, and all that stuff. They'd rather just lease on to a company that takes their 25% or 15% and takes care of all that nonsense. And so they will just buy trucks, hire drivers, and keep running under the same flag. And that's another option that I think a lot of people aren't aware of, especially when it comes to, you know, running hotshots. You don't necessarily have to, you can obviously guide them and say, hey, you know, we can help you get your own authority and all that, whatever else, and then, you know, dispatch them that way. But, you know, also guiding them towards a fleet aspect is beneficial, just because it also gives them some of the experience with operating more than one truck, being able to dispatch more than one truck, and then work their way to getting their MC number.
Yeah, for sure.
I got my MC number, but I've been doing this for 14 years. So I've been, I just got my MC and everything active last year. We've only been in business now a little over a year. So other than that, I've been a lease operator gaining my experience all this time. And it's just, I always feel that you're better off trying to get as much experience as possible before going out and pulling the trigger on getting your MC and all that. It is easy to get your MC. I mean, hell, I have a video on it. It's really easy to get it. It's not hard, but what comes after that, for a lot of people, including myself, it was almost overwhelming at one point in time, because my wife does the books, but I do everything else for the company, including the YouTube channel and everything like that. So I'm doing the IFTA, I'm doing the IRPs, I'm checking all the DOTs, I'm checking the CSA scores on everybody, the PSPs, the drug test, checking on the log books and making sure that everything's good there on a regular basis, checking receipts and paybacks and checking the rate cons and make sure we're getting paid what we're supposed to get paid, and the tow news and I can go on, man, and it is a lot. And for people who have never done anything in the trucking business before, say you're, a banker, and you decide, you know what, I'm done with the finance world. I'm done. I'm going to go get a pickup truck and I'm going to get my own company started. It can be shocking what you run into. And there needs to be places for hotshots to go. And I got one of the guys over here saying hotshot fleets are so much work compared to semis. Yeah, Northwest hotshot. I agree, man. That's what I'm saying. I mean, they are more work, but it's still a lucrative business. Regardless of the amount of work, that should never make anyone shy away from anything. Work is work. Hard work, the more you get paid in most cases. But at the same time, you shouldn't let hard work steer you away from certain things, because you can make it something, but it all depends on what you're willing to put into it. Like I said, training is always going to be crucial. Experience and understanding is always going to be crucial no matter what you're doing. So that's just my take on it.
No, for sure. I want to do one more comment and then kind of steer it a different way, but that was kind of something that I was doing with my friend here. He's going to be a driver, and like my plan for him wasn't for him to stay on the road always. It was for him to get his own truck, lease on with us, put a driver in the truck, dispatch that truck, get another truck, help me maybe dispatch a couple other people, and I want to build kind of this environment of like, don't be afraid to start Hotshot, but understand what you need to do when you start it, right? And I think like we could say basically what you said with the banker, it happened to me. It's like, I was a 23-year-old kid. We got the idea from somebody. We said, let's run it, and it's just like knocking down different bricks, basically saying, I need to do this, I need to do that. Oh, crap, I forgot about that. Oh, flip, what even is this, Okay, let's tackle that right now, and then,
Well, wait, let's read. Let's Google this and find out.
Wait, we have to stop at way stations? Like, nobody said that. Officer, listen, bro.
There's no stop sign on the highway.
There's 3 YouTubers out there, not going to say their names, but they told me I didn't have to stop at a weigh station because I'm under 26,000 pounds. Therefore, I didn't stop. Come on, It's just stuff like that, and it catches up with you. But, I mean, if you believe in yourself and really just when you do your research, if you hear something, you research it, you find the final answer, and you do not let that answer slip your mind, you just keep learning and keep learning and keep learning. And I think that's something that's super important. But yeah,
absolutely,
for sure.
I agree.
So I want to ask you: are you dispatching your trucks right now, or any trucks at all, or do you have a dispatcher that you pay, or?
No, I do all the dispatching.
So, what are some tips you would give to people who are going to dispatch themselves or are going to dispatch any trucks in general when dealing with a broker?
Well, number one is going to be knowing the market and knowing the lanes and the rates. Easiest way to do that is to use the rate mate that you get on TruckStop when you have their premium account. Now, I'm not plugging TruckStop. Personally, I'm not a fan of TruckStop. Personally, I prefer the DAT load board because the DAT load board actually has more reliable, more secure brokers. Mm-hmm. They actually have a standard that they follow, and if they fall outside of that standard, DAT won't allow them to post freight on their board. That's why you'll find less freight on DAT in most cases than you will on truck stop. That's because their standards are higher. DAT is the #1 very first load board ever. I mean, they literally used to have a TV screen at the truck stops, and freight would scroll by, and then you had to sit there. Before cell phones, you had to sit there and line up at a payphone and call on the freight that way. So, not just because they're the oldest, but because of their standards, that's why I've always preferred DAT. But as far as how to and what to expect and what you're dealing with when you're dealing with brokers for the first time, the rate mate that they have on truck stop is going to be your #1 tool in your toolbox. Because before you go to talk on a specific load, you can go on the rate mate, type in that same lane, where it's coming from and where it's going to, and you can get your history of what the rates have been on the last 7, 14, 21 days, 3 months, last 6 months, last year. And if you're going to be looking to, especially when you're leaving your house, you're going to establish specific lanes that are going to make the most money when you're leaving your house, and then also vice versa coming back. So what you do is you start looking at those lanes and looking at those rates, and then when you contact the broker, now granted, these rates are typically based off of semi-rates. They're not typically based off of partials. So there's a little bit of math you got to do with it. But if you look at those rates and look at the lanes, it gives you a stronger possibility to negotiate higher rates with those brokers, because the brokers will play games.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't care what they try to tell you. I see these brokers on a little Facebook chat rooms. Oh, well, this is what we do, you know. We try to work with you for a little while, and then we'll slowly boost your rate up later on.
Let me get you next time.
Look here, man.
Let me get you next time. This time you pull it for me. Next time you work with me, I'll get you back.
Yeah,
get you back.
Yeah, I'll owe you one. I'll owe you one. Just do me a favor this time. You know, especially you get those guys up in the Northeast. Oh, yeah, I love the Northeast brokers, man. I swear to God, they're some of the rudest brokers ever. I love hanging up on them. You know, and here we got Northwest Hotshot saying the job is to make money. Yes, their job is to make money, and unfortunately, they try to do it by just screwing over the driver. The driver is the end-all, be-all when it comes to the transportation industry. Nothing moves without the driver. So as far as I'm concerned, some yahoo sitting in his underwear in his mom's basement, you know, watching whatever he's got on the TV, sitting in front of his computer saying, oh, this looks like a good load to broker out, and then trying to make $400 for that, and all he did was make a phone call? No, I don't agree with that. I'm sorry. I'm the one doing all the work. It's my truck, my trailer, my insurance, my diesel, my maintenance, my drivers that are actually moving this product from point A to point B. We should make the most money on that, not the brokers. And I think they need to have the same rule for brokers when it comes to regular freight that they have for military freight. No double brokering, period.
Yeah.
That would make everybody's lives so much better, and you would see everybody's profit margins jump up at least 15% on every load. Because most of your loads in the open market, in the freight market, is either from a mega carrier or just double brokered from broker to broker. But nonetheless, you got 10 to 20% from one broker and then another 10 to 20% coming off from another broker. So, yeah, most brokers make around 10 to 15%, but if you do that between two brokers, that's 30% of that load that disappears. Got another comment just popped. You know, so it's just, for me, you got to know your lanes. You got to know the rates that are going on those lanes. A lot of guys, you know, they watch YouTube. They get a lot of tips off the line and whatever, and then there's so much talk about $2 a mile. Yeah, that's the magic number. You know, that's literally the magic number. Anything over $2 a mile,
especially for Hotshot. If you're doing, I say with Hotshot, especially non-CDL guys, I want you guys to know. I mean, $1.70, $1.80, $1.90, $2 a mile. If you're doing non-CDL Hotshot, you can definitely make a profit off of those loads.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, you know, and it's just there's just when it comes to lanes, there's a lot of ways to try and read the markets and all that. You can go on Freight Waves, and if you get their little freebie that they have, I think it's like 30 days, you get access to the freight markets and their reports and all that. Mm-hmm. And that's a good way to get a good understanding of the lanes and all that. At the same time, it's not going to give you the end all be all, because it's pretty expensive service actually. I had it for a little while, and then they wanted to start billing me, and I was like, yeah, that's too much money, dude.
I'm good. I learned what I needed to learn.
I'll stay with the rate mate.
Yeah, I think one thing for
that rate mate really is a great tool. That's the one thing I just want to get across. That is probably your best tool when you're getting into this business, to be able to know what to expect for specific lanes, because there are lanes that pay more than others. You'll find lanes like from Georgia up to no man's land, North Dakota, will pay you $240 a mile. But if you try to find a load coming from no man's land, North Dakota, going right back to Georgia, you're gonna be like $150.
Yeah. No, I think one thing I've learned, like, for example, like a couple of days ago, and some of these brokers, they're really good talkers. They're really fast talkers. They close the deals down quick. And a lot of times, guys, if you've ever done it before, if you look at a load, especially on truck stop, it's happened to me on DAT as well. For me personally, I actually don't use DAT at all. I was subscribed to it, but I kind of realized that all the freight that was on DAT was on truck stop as well. And I usually just called it off of truck stop. So I was using truck stop, and when you click on these different loads, guys, the broker can tell if you click on it, So a lot of times they're gonna solicit you. They're gonna call you and be like, "Hey, I saw that you looked at this load," and my guy was in kind of a hard place, and I had this woman call me. She's like, "Hey, I saw you clicked on this load. It's 40 feet, 5,000 pounds. It's like you're driving air, no problem at all. It's only 1,000 miles. I'm paying $2,000." And I'm like, okay. I was like, I got a little bit deadhead, but it's not a bad rate. And she's like, and I was trying to open her up to more questions, right? I got it out of her that it needed to be tarped, all that stuff. And she's like, real quick, she's like, "Awesome. Well, give me your email and I'll just send you over the carrier packet. We'll send you the rate con real quick, no problem, right?" And my guy was in a bad spot, and so I kind of let her smooth talk me into taking this load for the rate that she had posted. You know what I mean? Because in my mind, I was like, well, it's a good rate. I was like, I have no other loads to take. You know what I'm saying? But I probably let her make $300, $400, $500 more just because I let her smooth talk me, guys. So we got to realize that these brokers, they're trying to make as much money as possible, and a lot of them are really good. And that load, that woman, for example, was the most annoying broker I've ever dealt with in my life. She wanted me to update her every hour, okay? I told her what was up. I had some deadhead, right? We hadn't even dropped off our other load. They're like, she's like, "They load till 8 p.m. Don't even worry about it," And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to worry about it, right? So I told her where I was at, and she almost lost her mind. She's like, "How are you going to make it? Oh my gosh, I didn't know you're so far." I was like, "Woman, I told you what was happening, right? This is the whole reason I took the load." And then when my guy left the next day, she's like, "You have to be there till 11. They're going to leave." And she's like, "You have to be there at 11. They're going to leave." And she's like, and then she started just going off, and I was like, "You need to calm down." She's like, "Well, how many hours is he away? How many hours does he have left on his log? I teach a log booking class on Wednesday, and so I'm really good at this." And I'm like, I need to get this load off of my trailer right now. And so some of these brokers, they're really chill, but especially with women brokers, if there's any ladies in the chat, I've had the worst luck with women brokers. They some of the most annoying people I've ever dealt with in my life. No offense to anybody who's in the chat, but I don't know, with you Trucking Truth, have you had some pretty bad experience with brokers? We all have, but what's one experience that kind of stuck out to you?
Man, I had a great experience. We were doing heavy haul, and we had an XL 120 specialized RGN. It was good for 120,000 pounds. And we get this big, massive BG pile driver that was supposed to go on the trailer. And they told us it was, I forget what it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be like 124,000, 125,000 pounds. And that's not too bad over the max weight limit, but it came out to be 140,000 pounds. Now, when you get that big, every pound counts, okay, guys? Because you're already past 80. So your permits, everything on your permits has to be 100% accurate. And when you get that big, you fall into super load categories. And with that particular size load, I was required to have police escorts. So when you get police escorts through state troopers, they check everything. They want a weight ticket. They want to see your permits. They want to do a DOT inspection on site. They run around, kick the tires, and all that stuff. So we get the load. I get there. I pick it up. It was down outside of Gary, Indiana. So there was a scale not too far away, about 15 miles. And so we had to get a permit just to get to the scale. So we went ahead and maxed out the permit, no problem. Boom. We get over to the scale. I hop on the scale, 140,000 pounds. So holy shit, what? Wait, what? Me and you guys, you'll get to meet Brandon when I bring him onto the show. But me and him, he was actually running the Escort at the time, the Escort vehicle. Me and him spent the next 2 days trying to get this thing underweight because we were trying to make a name for the company that we were working for. You know, we're trying to represent the company 100%, and this was a huge account that we were about to get because this particular piece was being moved by it was through a broker nonetheless, but it was going to be a big deal when it comes to the oversize and the heavy haul industry. Even though they lied to us, we were still willing to go the extra mile. So we spent the next 2 days finding a way to get this thing within legal limits. Now, we were able to get through Illinois with our permits and get through Indiana with our permits, but we couldn't get through Ohio. We got to the Van Wert scale on 30 in Ohio, and the guy shut us down. Boom, you're done. Because we were 1,500 pounds over on one axle. But we were under gross for our permits. We had to install a leveling valve on the truck to try and balance out the weight. We had to remove pieces from the freight, steel, and dispose of them in order to get the weight down. And even though that we were 20,000 pounds over the maximum weight limit for the trailer, we were still able to get it down enough, and got it within 40 pounds. We were only 40 pounds over on one axle, and it wasn't even the same axle that we were over on the first time. And then we managed to, we called the customer and said, look, man, they're not letting us go. You're going to have to, come out here and get somebody to take this. We can't take it. We're going to have to offload it, whatever. Somehow, whoever these people were, I don't remember the name of the company, but they had connections. They called to the DOT in Ohio, and next thing you know, the weighmaster at that scale, the phone rings and says, go ahead, get out of here, you're good to go. But we spent 2 extra days on this load, man, chucking steel off this thing, trying to move things around, playing with leveling valves, re-shimming the trailer. We actually had a heavy-duty wrecker come out there and lift up the rear end of the trailer so we could stick more shims in there. And, I mean, it was an ordeal. It was an ordeal. Yeah. That was probably one of the worst deals with a broker ever. And I personally didn't deal with the broker on that load. I was the one hauling and dealing with all the nonsense on that load. But that's hands down still my worst experience with brokers.
No, for sure.
I mean, they didn't really care. They, I told them, hey, dude, you're 20,000 pounds wrong.
What even is that? 120, 140
pounds, buddy, dude. Like, I can't just stick that in my back pocket and walk away.
Yeah. No, for sure. I think
you got to watch out with these brokers, man. They're really, a lot of them are really shysty. They really are shysty.
Yeah, I think, and I think if they're going to load you 20,000 pounds over, they probably got some connections. They probably do it a lot of times, so they know what's popping. But they probably have some money in the pocket, and they're like, if you get pulled over, we're going to pay off the scales. You know what I'm saying? So that's what happened. But,
probably. I know the company that the broker was representing was a huge import-export company that dealt specifically with big machinery, big Caterpillar, dozers, excavators, pile drivers, because that's what I was hauling, was a pile driver. It was the big machine that sets up that big thing that just pulls up and then it just beats the columns into the ground.
Yeah.
When you're driving by, you hear that bam, bam, bam. It was one of those. It was 140,000 pounds of this stupid thing, and it had no boom on it, no nothing. It was literally just a tractor and the tracks, and that was it.
That's crazy. Yeah, they must have paid off somebody, but no worries there. Pedro in my chat says he has a question. Pedro, go ahead and ask your question if you want. Right now, I kind of want to open it up a little bit more to questions. Trucking Truth, is there anything you kind of wanted to go over, you kind of had in your back pocket you want to tell everybody? I want to open it now for some questions out of chat to see what we got going.
Honestly, I'm a little curious to see what questions everybody's got. I mean, I'm up to talk about for anything, really. It's all about sharing know-how. So
for sure. Because how many people do you have in your live feed over there?
I've got 12.
I got 17. 18. Look at us. Look at us.
Nice.
We're big time, boys. I'm telling you right now. But no, awesome. Well, we're waiting on questions here, guys. I made a video a couple days ago about booking loads. I put probably 8 or 9 questions that I ask to brokers a lot of time. Questions are really important for brokers, guys, because sometimes they've never seen the load. They don't really know what's being hauled. Like they call in, they say, yeah, it's 20 feet. you know, 8 feet wide, 5 feet tall, weighs X amount of pounds, you know. And I've had a couple brokers tell me what the load is. I get there and it's totally different, you know. So a lot of times they go off what the customer's telling them. So it's important, guys, especially if you're doing non-CDL hotshot, your weight's going to be a problem, you know what I mean? And if you're trying to haul something that's 9,500 pounds and your max is 9,700 pounds, it's important that you ask that broker if they're positive about that weight. And if they're not positive, you have them call the customer and see how positive he is about that weight, and that should measure whether you want to take that load or not. Yeah.
Well, also there's somewhere you can go depending on if it's equipment.
Mm-hmm.
If it is equipment, one of the #1 resources for the heavy haul guys is Ritchie Brothers Auctions.
Yeah, we did some Ritchie Brothers auction as well.
Trucks,
yeah.
Yep. Whether it's pickup trucks, machinery, you know, tractors. If you go to Ritchie Brothers, they pretty much have specs on just about every model of equipment that they've ever hauled, whether dry weight, wet weight, with specific attachments. And this is again specific for equipment and, you know, and trucks, semi trucks, stuff like that. But they pretty much have the specs on all that, and it's really easy to get there. And that's where a lot of brokers will go to also. And that's where they get a little confused because they look at a 12 2D, you know, Caterpillar tractor, and they just think it's a, you know, one size fits all scenario.
6,500 pounds.
Well, no,
usually 6,500 pounds. Yeah. No, that's important.
Yeah,
that's important.
Good.
Yep.
You're good.
Yeah, I think.
I got a question here.
Okay.
And I think this is actually one thing you wanted to talk about here. Northwest Hotshot's asking, what are your thoughts on the market for the next few months? Why don't you jump out on that one
Yeah,
first,
I think.
Okay.
Northwest. It's a lot about where you're at. You know, I've brokering a couple different trucks, right? You know, like I was telling Trucking Truth, I have a guy out of Wisconsin, right? And I was so amazed when I pulled up his search in truckstop.com. I mean, we had over 100 results, 100 miles away from him. We had so many different loads we could take. And then I pull up Las Vegas, where my truck's actually at, and I have about 20 loads. You know, some of those are too long, obviously, or some of them have already been booked. And so the market really depends on where you're going to be at. Obviously, you know, we're kind of finishing out the election. Coronavirus is kind of dying off a little bit. I mean, relatively, you know what I'm saying? And we're ending...
not according to the media.
Yeah, not according to the media. But I mean, people are starting not to care as much about it, right? They're gonna start building their houses again. They're gonna start, you know, companies are gonna start opening back up, the big companies, and we're getting out of, you know, the hardcore winter months. You know, I mean, obviously we're in January, so we have a little bit left. But I definitely think that the market's definitely going to be picking up a little bit more. The market in some spots is dead, and you need to realize what spots those are. Like Trucking Truth said earlier, you need to realize what lanes are going to pay you, and you need to focus on those lanes. You know, I've seen great loads paying $240 a mile that say hotshot on them, like they want a hotshot, and I've seen loads that pay 70 cents a mile. You know, but just make sure you have a good dispatcher, I think, and make sure you know what lanes to run, and you're going to be good even in, you know, the worst months of hotshot. But I do think it's getting better.
Yeah, I have to say I believe that the market is going to stay strong for a little bit longer. Number one, a lot of people don't realize that shutdown that we went through because of COVID, it put a huge amount of strain on the transportation industry as a whole. If I'm not mistaken, to date, still, pretty much every freighter that carries containers into our ports is packed. There is literally standing room only on these freighters that are coming in and out because of that hold, because it put such a huge backup at the ports. And a lot of our stuff does get imported, believe it or not. There's still Kubota tractors, even smaller ones, will actually come in containers in some cases. But there's so much freight that was backed up at the ports because of the shutdown that they are still at this time trying to catch up on that while managing getting their current orders back out. At the same time, with with your regular manufacturers and suppliers, it's the same situation. They're still working on back order because they were shut down. They weren't able to process anything because their government had them shut down, the state had them shut down, COVID restrictions had them shut down. But at the same time, regardless of why they were shut down, and it put a huge strain on the industry as a whole. And so many companies are still playing catch up. And as I'm sure a lot of you saw, the end of the year, the last quarter, there was a huge push in freight, because they were all trying to get their end of the year numbers up because they had such a large drop in revenue because of the shutdown. But at the same time, that's going to carry into 2021. I don't think that you're going to see the rates start to fall off just yet, but I would expect that this market is going to balance itself out again. This is what they call a freight boom right now. Even though we had such a big shutdown and the rates plummeted into the ground, where, I mean, people were literally, trying to move freight for 40 cents, 50 cents a mile at one point in time this year. stimulus money might help. Yeah, that might help, Northwest. But even though the rates plummeted so far, they went so far up, it was almost like a vertical spike when you look at the market rates during that shutdown. When that shutdown ended and everything opened back up for what it opened, at least, rates went through the roof because there weren't enough trucks, because a lot of drivers, lost their trucks. There's companies that went out of business during the COVID shutdown. There was a couple thousand trucks between a few companies that went out of business. And, where there's a vacuum, there'll be it'll fill that void. So, a lot of people went out and bought trucks. But I will caution you guys, all of you, whether you're CDL, non-CDL, big truck, hotshot, it don't matter. The market is going to correct itself, and these higher numbers that you're currently seeing right now are not going to continue to be at that amount. So you need to stack your money away. You need to make sure you got your maintenance funds away, and you need to make sure that you truly know what your cost per mile is to operate your truck, because when the market does correct itself and these rates go back down to where they normally are, a lot of you guys may not be able to stay with what you got if you have too high of overhead expenses. If you went out and got the Mac Daddy pickup truck, or the pimped out Peterbilt with all the chrome and bells and whistles, and I went and got me a self-loading trailer and a self-tarping system and all this. Went and got $30,000 sleeper on my pickup truck. You're gonna have all these bills. And you're going to end up with not the same revenue, and what's going to end up happening is you're going to be working just to pay for your trucks. And then the joy that you have in this lifestyle, in this career that you've chosen, is going to go right out the window, and you're going to be left with nothing but stress, debt, and high bills.
For sure.
The market is not going to stay this way, but to answer your question, yes, it will stay good for a few more months. I would try to estimate probably 6 more months before you start to see these rates start to fall back off. You're gonna see the rates go back up just a little bit just after winter hits, like Jay said. A lot of the flatbed freight and a lot of freight in general will typically fall off during the winter time, and in springtime it'll pick back up. So you're going to see a little influx in the springtime, and then shortly thereafter, you're going to start to see it dwindle off and start to teeter back to a plateau again.
Oh, for sure. So I got a good array of questions on my side, so we're going to stick to those for a couple minutes.
Nice.
One question I want to answer pretty quick. Let's see if Trucking Truth, if you have something to say about this. Pedro asked, what do you guys think about starting a hotshot company in California?
Well, California has its own set of rules. I'm not a big fan of California, just because of their rules between the 10,000 pound limit for non-CDL. I can't remember exactly what that rule is, but they have that weird rule about your weight limit over 10,000 pounds. Other than that, West Coast, the one thing the West Coast does have is it has kind of its own little market out there in the 11 Western states, where you kind of run into a gap outside of, say, California, Oregon, Washington, basically the I-5 corridor. You can stay pretty busy just running up and down I-5. When you come outside into Nevada, and unfortunately, Utah, Colorado, Wyoming, New Mexico, you see kind of a dead space when it comes to freight over in those areas compared to the West Coast, the Midwest, or the East Coast. That mountain range area in those select states, they don't have as much commerce and commodities that come out of that area. But if you stay out on the West Coast and you just run up and down I-5, I believe you'd do pretty well. If you're going to run out of California, I think that you'd end up having to run clean cross country, or you'd end up OTR. So if your question is geared around staying close, then yes, you could do okay staying close if you stay out on the I-5 corridor. Outside of that, you're going to be running OTR, and you're going to be looking at a couple weeks out on the road in order to make a good profit with your company.
No, for sure. I think, and obviously me being in Southern Utah, we go to California a lot to pick up loads. I've seen a lot of good money in. I mean, I've seen a lot of good loads, I can say, in pulling containers out of like Long Beach, California, for example. I've seen some
Yep.
good money out of those, and they're always there. So you can get some direct work with container shipping, and they usually pay. I mean, I've seen 250 a mile. I've seen $2 a mile. I've seen 160 a mile. Like obviously, I probably wouldn't do it for any less than $1.60, $1.70 a mile for a container, just because your gas mileage is going to suffer a little bit there with that container. But like you said, I mean, if you're going to go up to like Oregon, I've seen a lot of work up in Oregon. I've seen a lot of work up in Washington. We're usually doing pretty good. The problem that we've been caught with a lot of times is trying to leave Las Vegas or picking up loads out of California that are going to like Arizona or New Mexico, like you said. I mean, you can fall into some dead zones off of some short hauls, and you can definitely waste some time when you should be on the road driving. So I mean, whenever I'm in California, I'm trying to get a load that can take me to like, let's say Texas, for example. Or I'm trying to get a load that can take me to Oregon, or I'm just staying in California and running, Sacramento, Bay Area, to Long Beach or San Diego, kind of running back and forth there. So you can definitely get some good freight moving.
I'm glad you said the containers, because there's actually there's a brokerage slash app. It's called Dre Now. And if I'm not mistaken, we actually did some dedicated work up here in the Chicago market for them. They have pretty good rates. If you contact them and yourself, even Jay, but I don't know who asked the question about being out in California. When you get your MC and everything set up, if you contact Dre Now, you may be able to get something set up where you can help them to reposition the empty containers. Because obviously, as a hotshot, you're not really going to be able to haul the loaded containers, because you're going to be looking at 50,000 pounds. But they do. That's all they do is container work. That is their sole deal, is just drayage, basically. They try to do things more on a round trip basis, but in certain markets, there's so much containers available, you may be able to work something out with them as far as locating or relocating the empties for them, and then have them find a semi truck that can go back in there to pick up the loaded one later on. So the Dre Now guys, check it out. It worked out pretty good for us over here in the Chicago market. We had a dedicated lane. Again, we were using a semi, but I do know that they move a lot of empties at the same time. They do a lot of empties from one yard to another to reposition a container to another yard, because it needs to go onto another rail, because you got what is it, Canada, was it CN, Canada Northern or something like that, Canada National, then you got BNSF. You got like 4 or 5 major railways. They go, east to west and north and south throughout the United States. And sometimes containers have to go from one rail to another. And so they'll move it literally from one yard to another. You can stay down in Long Beach area and literally shuttle containers back and forth. There's a lot of drayage companies down there that you can also work with down in the California, Long Beach, LA area to just get in there and help them move, empty containers back and forth in a hotshot capacity. Same thing with any of you guys with a semi truck. Drayage, a lot of people don't like containers just because, in some areas it can beat up your truck. A lot of Texas yards are pretty rough. The suspension gets wore out a little bit, but it can be very lucrative, guys, and it keeps you closer to home too. Home time is a big important thing. We all sacrifice our home time to go out here and provide for our families, but we got to remember we got families to also spend time with too. So.
Yeah, I think, and like for example, we found a guy. He basically sells shipping containers, and we'd haul from him from Long Beach to Cedar City, Utah, Cedar City, which is like only an hour from where I live currently. So whenever I need my driver to come by us, or needs him to get out of Long Beach, and I can see the truck, see how the truck's doing, see the trailer, see everything, make sure everything's going good, I can always have him run one of those. It pays the same rate every time. Obviously, if you do more work with a broker, he's a direct shipper, so he's not really a broker. You can usually get more out of him and say, hey man, I can always run this for you. You can set some direct, what's the word I'm looking for? Like some direct loads, straight from the shipper that you're going to make the most money on, because there's no broker in the middle. So that's basically where you want to get to, is be able to haul brokerless freight and make as much money for it. I think that's something that's super important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's another one that popped into mind while you were talking, PackVan. PackVan is the company. Yep, they take the containers and they convert them into mobile offices. So a lot of times if you can find a PackVan location closest to you, it could be something that you can set up for yourselves, whether it's you, Jay, or any of the viewers that are in areas, because they have locations all over the place, guys. They get used containers or even brand new containers in from the ports and the drayage yards, and then they just convert them. They kind of make them an office. They put insulation, cut out windows, air conditioner, stuff like that. And even when they do those conversions, they may not be too heavy for you to still haul them, because they do 20 footers and they do the 40 footers. So you could haul them in empty, and then once they're all painted up and converted, you may also be able to work out an account with them to where you can haul back out of there as well, because they're just dolled up a little bit, a little paint, a little spruce, little interior decoration, and they send it out to a job site somewhere.
A little cleanup.
Yeah, a little spit shine,
Awesome. Cool. Well, I have one question here. If you could answer it pretty quick for us, Trucking Truth, you're going to know the answer for sure. Omar asks, can your trailer be rated for more than your truck can pull? That's a good question.
Well, the tractors, in the tractor world, your trailer is going to have its own rating, and then the tractor is going to have its own rating. So your gross vehicle weight rating, and then of your truck and then of your trailer combined, is your limit. So the major limit is 80,000 pounds. That is the max, period, before you need permits. So if your trailer is rated higher than what your tractor is rated for, I suppose you'd have an issue, because you're not going to be able to necessarily hook up a 53-foot flatbed to a 3500.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to pull a flatbed trailer with a pickup truck. I have seen some stories and photos of some sort of a conversion kit. You could do it empty, but you would never be able to do it loaded. Your axles aren't, because it's not just your gross vehicle weight rating. It's also your axle ratings. It's also your tire ratings. These are the checks and balances that the industry has to keep people from pulling, tricks or trying to be slick. And I'm not saying that you're trying to be slick at all, but there are people who try to do things, and these are the little checks and balances. So yeah, you've got your GVWRs, but then they're also going to look at your axle rating. They're also going to look at your tire ratings. That's where some guys get caught. Like, hey, yeah, the truck's rated for this, but I went out and bought these nice shiny rims and these low profile tires, and then you get gigged on a weight restriction, because your tires aren't even rated for what they're supposed to be rated for, especially in the Hotshot world. You don't see so much of that in the big trucks, because 22.5-inch rims and 22.5 tires, they're all rated for the same weight. But you see a lot of Hotshots will get they'll get the nice shiny tires and the rims, and they don't have the same load rating that your stock tires did. Even they'll have a lesser load rating. So I don't think you would be able to haul. I guess you'd have to be a little more specific as to the type of truck and trailer combination you're talking about, really, because airlines and stuff like that are going to play into a factor. The connection type is going to play into a factor. And then it's not just the truck and the trailer, but then you also have to consider what your payload's going to be.
No, for sure. I think one thing I think he's trying to get out of what he's trying to say is, for example, if you have like a brand new, let's say 2019 Ford F350, they say those trucks can haul 37,000 pounds, right? The motor, or I think it's 37,000, right? 36,000, right? So let's say, for example, Omar, your truck's GVWR is 14,000. Let's say you have a trailer GVWR of 20,000. That's 34,000 pounds, right? So that's the max weight you can basically weigh at any time, loaded or unloaded. And like what Trucking Truth said, your axles are going to have their own GVWR ratings that are going to fit into there. So you cannot be over 34,000 pounds, and you cannot overload one of your axles, right? So you could be under 34,000 pounds, but if all your weight's centered on one axle, you could definitely be overweight there. And so let's say, for example, you only weigh 16,000 pounds unloaded or 18,000 pounds unloaded. So you have 16,000 pounds you can haul. Now, legally, you can weigh 34,000 pounds, but whether your truck can actually pull the 16,000 pounds pretty well or smooth or can handle it, that's up to your equipment, right? But legally, you could weigh 34,000 pounds. So that to answer your questions there.
Right. So it's always safer. It's always safer to just make sure that your combination is going to be within the limitations of your truck, because it's not just your axles, it's your drivetrain, it's your transmission, it's it's the suspension of the vehicle also. When you start pushing the limitations of your equipment, you start risking your life, you start risking the lives of everybody else, because in the event that you have a catastrophic failure and DOT comes out there, and every accident, because I just had an accident happen with one of my trucks, every single accident that has a DOT officer that shows up where a vehicle is incapacitated. So if you get into an accident and your truck is completely done, it's not going nowhere, it's broken, whatever, freight falls off, whatever the case is, they are going to inspect that truck. They're going to look at everything. And insurance is going to look at everything. And then what ends up happening is if you have overloaded your equipment, then you are at fault. You become the guy at fault. And now the entire situation could rest on your shoulders. And you're looking at lawsuits. You're looking at thousands of dollars going out. You're looking at possibly losing your MC number. You're looking at all kinds of issues. So always try to keep your stuff within its limitations. Don't ever try to go over the limitations.
For sure. Awesome. Yeah. I have a couple questions I just want to answer real quick because I have a good amount of them over here. We said, Jay, are you just dispatching your truck or do you drive? Also, I'm currently just dispatching. We have a driver. I do most of the logistical side of things. I have a good question right here that we can both answer. I think we can get into this just a little bit too. It's Jacob asked, good hotshot insurance for a one-car hauler? And I think we can get into a couple other things with this question, not just talk about insurance, kind of talk about, I kind of reform this question a little bit, because you have on the Facebook forums all the time, you have guys who are posting, hey, I have an F-150, I have a one-car hauler, I want to get into hotshot or like their type of hotshot. And I mean, obviously, when you own a business, when you own your own trucking business, whether you're doing anything, you kind of realize all of the different, let's say, all of the different debts you have to pay or all of the different things you have to pay, the overhead you have. And so I think we can get into this question a little bit and kind of explain to people if they're going to do, a one-car hauler, what they need to realize.
Well, personally, I would definitely say to wait till you can get it, a multiple car hauler, at least a 3-car wedge if you're going to do car hauling. If you are, dead set on starting with just a 1-car hauler, the insurance isn't going to be hard. You can talk to the insurance company that I use, which is Trucking Insurance out of Georgia. We could I can give Jay the link and all that. We can put it in the description of the video later on. That won't be an issue at all. But they do commercial insurance. Depending on where you are, if it's just going to be you and the one truck. I don't know what the rates would be because it's all going to be based on your driving experience, your motor vehicle record, the state that you live in, the type of truck you're trying to insure, whatever commodities. Now, I will say that insurance on car hauling is more expensive than general freight, number one. And that comes with good reason because pretty much you run into a lot more claims in the car hauling industry. There's just a lot of people out there, oh, that scratch wasn't there before, you picked it up, now it's there. I want a new paint job, I want a new Maserati. So watch out with that. But I personally would definitely say to wait a little bit longer and save a little bit more money to get a 3-car hauler, just because of the simple fact that the rates in the car hauling industry are, your money is made on the more cars you can haul. One car might only pay you like 80 cents a mile to go 250, 300 miles. Exactly. So that's my personal opinion. I'm not steering you wrong. I'm not steering you away from it. If that's what you want to do, that's great. But I definitely would suggest to get a bigger trailer so you can haul more than one car, because the first car basically covers all your expenses. The next car kind of covers the rest of what the first car didn't cover, and then the third car is typically your profit. And then that's why the more cars, the more money you make.
For sure.
But insurance-wise, we can definitely point you in a direction with a couple of insurance agents. I'm sure Jay's got one he could point you to as well. That'll help you out with some good rates. That's where I would go. You're just gonna. It's all gonna depend on where you are. Because, like, for example, if you're in Brooklyn, you're gonna pay way more insurance than me out here in no man's land, Wisconsin.
Yeah. No, for sure. I think something that's important to think about is like there's going to be a good amount of overhead. One thing that's cool about Hotshot is you can usually cash flow pretty well. I made a video today talking about 3 reasons to get into Hotshot. One of them is you can basically have instant customers. Like if you're just looking to haul cars, you can sign up with Central Dispatch and they're going to have a ton of cars that need to be hauled, and you just need to get in with those brokers, book the load and get the car on the trailer. But like Trucking Truth was said, you're gonna have a good size overhead, even if you're just running an F-150 pulling a 1-car hauler. Like you're still gonna have a good amount of overhead. You're gonna have gas. Insurance is not cheap, and I don't think it's gonna be that cheap even when you're doing only a 1-car hauler. You're gonna have ELD. You're gonna have a lot of little stuff you don't look into. And so just hauling 1 car that's only gonna pay you $1 a mile isn't really gonna be the best to make a profit. You might be able to cover cost, in the long run, but we're here to make profits, right? We're here to be able to pay. pay ourselves and give employment to people that we trust and kind of help build our business, right? We want to build a business to build, and doing a one car hauler might be a good way to get in. But like I said, like Trucking Truth said, I would look for a 3-car hauler or 2-car hauler, anything that you can get your hands on, so you can put more cars on your truck and be able to make more money. I think that's the most important. But
yeah, you might be surprised with some of the car hauler, what do you call it? Trailer lots. The trailer dealers. A lot of them will actually take your old trailers and trade and give you credit for what you're trading in, and then you put a little bit down. You might have a little bit of a payment. But in the long run, you're going to be better off doing that than starting out with a single car hauler. The more you can haul, the more you're going to make. That's the name of the game in the trucking business, period. Doesn't matter what size truck you're pulling. The more you can haul, the more you get paid.
Exactly. I think if you're doing one car, definitely look into like an enclosed trailer. You can do nicer cars, more expensive cars. But obviously, insurance claims are a huge factor, and if you're doing a very expensive car, it's going to be a very expensive insurance claim, even like a small scratch. So you definitely got to watch out for that. But real quick, I got a couple more questions here. A1 Midwest Transport asks, what's the max you can derate your trailer? I kind of go off this one real quick. So when we first bought our trailer, obviously we derated it from 14,000 pounds to 12,000 pounds. But we ended up calling around. I called a lot of different trailer dealers, because at first I didn't really realize that, it might be hard to derate a trailer, like a heavy duty trailer, down to what we wanted. So I was looking at trailers with GVWRs of like 22,000, 24,000, in the 20,000s, and I didn't really think a difference, because I was like, I can just call the manufacturer, they can derate it for me real quick. But then a lot of different trailer dealers were like, no, you can't do that. Like, a lot of times they're not going to derate it. It's too heavy duty. The trailer already weighs, it's already pretty heavy for you. You're not going to be able to haul that much. You're going to haul less weight with a heavy duty trailer than you would with a trailer that's not as heavy duty if you're doing non-CDL, right? Because the heavy duty one's going to weigh more. And I think
the thicker gauge steel.
Exactly. And so, I've watched videos on, Toe Piglet had a video out where basically he's like, you can go on eBay, you can buy the VIN tag, they'll put in the VIN tag and they'll put the GVWR for you, and he's basically saying, well, I don't think it's illegal because you're rating it for less than what it actually is, right? And so it's kind of like this, can I rate the trailer, can I not rate the trailer? But then you call the manufacturers and they're like, no, we're not going to do that for you because it's such a heavy-duty trailer. It's just like this big confusion. That's why I only really mess with 14,000 or 14K trailers or 16K trailers to derate them to what I need them to be for non-CDL. But Trucking Truth, I don't know if you've had any experience with that.
No, I've never derated a trailer. Not for me personally. It's number one, I've got a CDL, so I've never really had to have a reason to derate a trailer. But I do have an opinion on it. Number one, if you are just buying plates and just, tacking them onto your trailer and just covering the other one off, number one, that's fraud, guys, and that is illegal. If the manufacturer is not willing to derate your trailer, there's good reason behind it, because, again, there are checks and balances in this industry that keep people honest. So, again, you got your, plate up there says, oh, it's just rated for this, right? Well, now if he turns around and looks at what axles you have on the truck and the trailer and the tires that he has, and he does the math and he says, well, your axle rating is this, and it's not always how the law is written. It's sometimes how the officer interprets it. So if an officer doesn't understand what he's really looking at, he can still write you a ticket for being overweight because he's going based off of your axles and your tires versus what's going on your data plate there on the trailer. And you can't argue that right there. You have to argue that in court. There's no arguing right there on the side of the street. He wants to give you a ticket, he's giving you a ticket. That's it. You're just not getting out of it. But I personally have never had to derate a trailer. I've always looked at it like, buy what you are going to need. Don't look at it like, I'm going to buy this big heavy duty trailer, I'm going to derate it now, and then I'm going to call them in 2 years when I'm ready to upgrade and rate it back up. In most cases, your Hotshot trailers are only going to last a couple of years. There's only a couple of real manufacturers for Hotshot trailers that make a good stout product that lasts a while. A lot of the other ones, you have issues with welds and cracks and floorboards breaking and all this. And in the end, it's just cheaper to buy a new one in a couple of years than it is to repair your old one. So buy what you need now and then upgrade later when you're ready to upgrade.
Exactly.
You know, don't play in the gray areas, guys. The gray areas in the trucking industry will get you in trouble and can get people hurt. That's my take on it, guys. I'm not one who likes to play around with, oh, well, we can do this now and we can try to do this later. It's my take, guys. It is what it is. You know, take it with a grain of salt. You know, people call me square or whatever. He's a stickler for the rules. I do that, but I've got a clean driving record, no accidents. Freight doesn't fall off my trailers. I don't roll over in ditches. So, you know, it's like I said, take it for what it is. Yeah, for sure. Buy what you need now and upgrade later, and you won't have any
problems. And guys,
they make aluminum trailers too if you're worried about weight. Sure.
And guys, right now we're talking about if you're non-CDL, right? So if you are CDL, it's going to go directly off of your GVWR. It's going to be more about what your truck can handle, your GVWR, your truck, and your trailer. You know, if you are doing non-CDL, you have to stay under 26,000 pounds or 26,000 pounds and under all the time, whether that's your ratings or your GVWR and your actual weight. Okay, that's something to know. And I actually have a really good question over here as well from Davery. It is, what was your first 90 days like with getting loads? So trucking, if you could talk about your first 90 days, and I'm still in my first 90 days, so I could talk about that too.
Well, for me, guys, my first 90 days was actually pretty smooth because I knew what brokers wouldn't deal with me. I knew what brokers would deal with me. So I kind of stayed with the big name brokers. I went directly to the bigger flatbed companies. Mercer, ATS, Landstar, you know, Coyote, went through, let's see, what was the other one? Coyote, and then what's the other one over there? Can't remember right now.
TQL?
Basically what I did is I stayed with all of TQL, that's the one right there. TQL and CH Robinson, guys. CH Robinson's another one that a lot of people overlook. They do a lot of parcels. They do get some Hotshot type freight. They don't market it as it, they just market it as a partial, but once you get on the broker, you know, to talk to them, hey, this is what I got, I can haul it, no problem, then boom, 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 it's yours. But I stayed with all the big ones, guys, for the first 90 days. After that, there was no real issues. There were even, I actually found that there were a lot more companies that were willing to work with Hotshots in their first 90 days than they would with a semi-truck in their first 90 days. How that made any sense, don't ask me, but it was what it was, and it worked out. So I didn't really have a lot of issues. I went straight in for it, guys. I just went right into the business, went right to not broker and freight, but booking loads, and I didn't wait. I know there's this weird, like, lie in the industry. There's no other word. I can't find another word for it, man. It's a lie. You don't need to float your insurance and float your company and just not do anything for 90 days. You can go out there and make money on day one.
Exactly.
Plain and simple. You don't have to wait. I don't know where this rule or where this story came from. I have a feeling that maybe it came from some carriers somewhere, some big trucking company carriers somewhere that were scared to lose their drivers. And we're like, oh, no, nobody's going to deal with you for the first 90 days. You got to float your insurance, your truck payment, and everything. Nobody's going to give you any freight for the first 90 days, just as a ploy to kind of keep their drivers. And I think that's where that came from. That's just my opinion. I don't know. Maybe it's written in a tabloid somewhere. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm still in my first 90 day, guys. I remember I've probably been turned down, I'd say 5 times so far. And I mean, we take about 3 or 4 loads a week. And one thing that's important, I think, is to just be straight up with the broker. I mean, like, if I feel like we're going to run into that question, a lot of times you don't even run into the question. You know, they'll be like, what's your MC number? You tell them, and they'll be like, okay, I'll send you over a carrier packet. That's happened to me a lot. But as long as you're straight up and they're like, well, how long have you had your business? I'll be like, well, we're in our first 90 days. We've been able to haul our freight. I have a driver who's super professional. He has a good amount of experience. We have all new equipment, you know. Just tell them how it is, you know. Tell them who you are. Be real about it. And I've had different brokers actually get overrides to let me haul their freight, you know, because they feel good about using me as a carrier. And I think as long as you're real with them about who you are and what you represent, you know, you'll be able to haul a good amount of freight. And like Trucking Truth said, it hasn't happened to me in probably 4 weeks. You know, we're running about, I think I'm on like day 80 now. And I haven't even, like, that hasn't come to mind about not being able to get freight because of the first 90 days. I haven't had that problem yet. And I mean, it's been rolling good for us, you know. And I think a lot of people think there's a lot of brokers out there that aren't going to use you. They have the best loads. You're getting like the bottom of the barrel. It's not true. A lot of loads that I've called on and they said we don't want to use you. It wasn't even that good of a load. It was just something that I might have needed in the moment, you know. So don't let that hold you back, guys. You guys can definitely get out there and kill it. You know, that's for sure.
There's plenty of freight. There's plenty of freight to be hauled out there, and there's a lot of brokers that will use new carriers. And like Jay said, it's how you talk to a broker is gonna increase their confidence level in you. And yes, brokers can get overrides, like he said. I got the same thing when I was in my first 90 days, just because of the way I spoke, carried myself. My understanding of the industry, you know, when they were talking about dimensions and length and weight and whatever else, I was able to rebuttal on the rates. And just because the confidence level that I had when I was talking to them made them more comfortable, and they, oh yeah, you know what, I can go ahead and get an override for you, no problem. I'll send you a carrier pack out right now. As soon as we get it back, we'll override it in the system, and you know we'll send you a rate confirmation. Cool. All right.
Let's do it. Let's
Money in the
run it.
bank, baby. Money in the bank.
Exactly. I want to give a big shout out to Strong Hotshot. He's actually in the chat right now. Strong, thank you for the videos you make. You help us all out. He actually taught me a lot about Hotshot when I was first starting out my business. So if you guys are in the chat and you haven't checked out his channel, go ahead and check it out. Name's D Nice, super awesome guy, helps a lot of people out. So yeah, I don't know, Trucking Truth. I have a good amount of questions on my side, man. I don't know if you're getting any questions on your side. If you want to plug one in. Or we can keep going off with mine.
I got a couple earlier that I went over, and then not so much right now, but
okay.
We had a few
cool.
earlier.
Let me go ahead and see which ones we got in that we can definitely do something about. So, Keenan Savage says, coming out of the military in a year, I have my company. Could I get authority or DOT numbers now without getting the insurance yet? I can kind of answer that pretty quick. So yeah, you can definitely get your authority numbers now. When I first got our company going, we went ahead and did getting our authority numbers, but we didn't really know everything we needed to get to activate them. And so I actually received my DOT number and my MC number in January of 2020, but we actually didn't activate it until October of 2020. So yeah, you're obviously going to need insurance, your BOC3 to be able to activate your numbers, but you can get them ahead of time. I forgot what they call it, Trucking Truth, when they're not activated and the amount of time they need to be. It like goes into, I don't know the word, if someone can help me. It like goes into like some sort of like remission or something. I don't know the word they use, but you just have to call.
You're talking about when you don't get the
yeah.
in time?
You just have to call them and send in a paper and stuff.
It sits in basically a DOT limbo, if you will.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't really do anything. You just kind of sit there, and then if you don't activate it in a certain amount of time, then your numbers will eventually be lost forever.
Yeah, I think it's a year. I think you have a year, if I'm not mistaken. If somebody else knows a little bit more about that, please let me know. But I know that we were in that limbo for about 7 months. And when you do get your numbers, you are going to have a lot of people that are going to solicit you for different they're going to want to do different services for you, like factoring companies, you know, financing, different stuff like that, fuel cards. I actually use a factory company that solicited me way back in the day. They never let me go. They just called me once a month for 6 months. And I was like, okay, I'm going to use you just because you did that. So that's what we're doing right now.
I did get a question here from Chris Jones. He was asking, I'm wanting to start Hotshot in May. Would I be better off with Hotshot or Semi? I do have a CDL. Chris, I mean, it's going to be based on what your goals and aspirations are. You know, I went backwards and did the Hotshot thing for a little while, and I liked it. I had a lot more freedom in a pickup truck than I do in a Semi, just because of off time. You know, when you're doing a 34, I was able to actually go more places. But at the same time, I realized that the freight rates and the amount of money was a little bit less than what I was used to in a big truck. And again, it's a business. I'm here to grow. I'm here to make money. I'm here to get as much as I can out of the business. So my suggestion would be, it depends on you and what you're looking to do. Not necessarily what everybody else says you should do. It's going to be what you want to do. If you already have a CDL, to purchase a decent used semi truck is virtually the same price as a brand spanking new 3500. And the biggest difference is your 3500 will be wore out and on its last leg by the time your semi truck is broke in. And that's just facts of the way these things are designed. 3,500, 450s, 4,500s, they're not designed to do a million miles. They're just not. Within just a few short years, you're going to be needing to do a rebuild and stuff like that. Where a semi truck at 200,000 miles is just broken in. 500,000 miles, you just lost your warranty. 700,000 miles, you might want to do an in-frame at that point in time, but it can go well into a mil 5 and never even crack the engine. So that's, again, it's all going to be dependent on what you're looking to do, what your credit looks like, what your startup capital looks like, what kind of down payments you're going to have, and where you're wanting to go and how you're wanting to run. If you're wanting to stay more regional and in a short haul capacity, you're going to be more successful, in my opinion, in a semi truck than you would in a hot shot. Hot shots typically need to run a little further than a big truck does, just in order to make the same kind of money. So that's what I think about that, Chris. I hope that helps.
Yeah, for sure. And if I can add a little bit on that too, I think it depends on how comfortable you feel, Chris. I think that's the most important. Are you just starting out in commercial driving and you want to kind of get a hang of it? You want to get a hang of, going over scales? You want to get a hang of getting an inspection done, and getting everything ready? Because I think one thing I kind of realized too is like what Trucking Truth said. When we were going to buy a semi truck, we were going to drop $60,000 on a truck with 300,000 miles, right? And when we bought our F-350, we dropped like $52,000. So almost identically the same. Now I think the difference is like if I'm having a really hard time, in my trucking company and I kind of want to dissolve the company, I can unhook the trailer of an F-350 and it's just like a Super Duty truck, right? I can drive my kids to school in it. I can go get groceries. I can take it through a car wash. I can basically do whatever the heck I want with it, right? And I do feel like in Trucking Truth, please correct me if I'm wrong, it probably is a little bit easier selling an F-350 than it would be trying to offload a semi-truck, just because F-350, I mean, you could sell it to any car lot ever if you're trying to get out of the company. You could just, a lot more people are looking to buy just a regular Super Duty truck for everyday use that's like not a CDL vehicle than they are just looking to buy a semi-truck. Because I feel like there are a ton of semi-trucks out there to buy, and they might be a little harder to sell. But Trucking Truth, I don't know if you've had a different aspect on that.
You'd be surprised how easy it is to sell a big truck, man. Especially right now. It all depends on like what truck you got too. Because like the truck I drive right now, it's a classic. It's an antique even. It's a 1988.
I was born in '97.
It's only got 750,000 miles on it, so she's still got a lot of life. An old girl. She's non-ELD, because she's got no computer on the truck. Yeah. But I would have to say that particular truck doesn't sell very easily just because of the age. But if you took a 1988 Peterbilt or 1988 Kenworth W900 and stuck it on the market, and as long as it's in decent shape, got decent tires and brakes on it, you can sell it almost the next day. Mm-hmm. Just because there's certain trucks that they're more sought after than others. But pickup trucks, yeah, man, pickup trucks definitely, they sell left and right, all depending on where you're at. Like up here in the Midwest, I've got a dually pickup that's got a Cummins swap in it. I put it up for sale not too long ago because I just don't got time to tinker with it no more. And this was one of the reasons why I had to mute this phone, because I keep getting messages, all day long. Is this still available? Tire kickers mostly, but. Yeah. You'd be surprised how fast either one. Pickup trucks and big trucks, period, they just sell really easily. No, exactly. At least for me.
For sure, and I think, I sold cars for a long time. I was at a car lot, a used car lot, a pretty big car lot too. So, we dealt in a lot of different vehicles. And if somebody was trying to trade in a diesel dually truck, we'd have 3 or 4 people ready to buy that thing. People are always looking for them. And so you can definitely offload them. So, if you're kind of scared, I don't want to tell you, you shouldn't go in a business thinking you're going to fail, right? But I personally believe that if you're going to do Hotshot and, you just go in, you have a really hard time with it, it's probably going to be a little easier to recoup some of your losses than it would be, going hardcore in the semi world. And that's just what I personally believe. Obviously, I don't have much experience with it, but just kind of looking from the outside, I would think it'd be a little bit easier. That's just me, though.
You're not too far off base on that. Because like you said, the pickup trucks they tend to sell a lot faster. You might sit on a semi truck a little bit longer before you get to sell it. And again, it all depends on where you're at, what kind of truck it is. Dualies and 250s are typically sought after more than 150s. You see 150s a dime a dozen. They don't sell very quickly. The heavier duty ones, because of work applications and stuff, they would typically, you know, sell a little bit faster.
For sure.
I did get a question here,
Cool.
and it's actually a pretty hot topic for the Hotshot guys in the big truck world. It's let me scroll back to it here. Let's see. All right, Hotshot by the Mile asks, how about def delete trucks? Is legal or illegal as long as you don't run into California? The short and skinny of that answer is it is illegal to delete your def system off your truck, according to the EPA. But the other part of the story is that California is really the only state that enforces it, guys. The California Air Resource Board, or CARB for short, is really the only guys that are out there checking that stuff. Most of your DOT weigh stations over here in the rest of the United States outside of California, they don't really check that stuff. Now, if you're out there and you're being more or less an idiot, and, you know, oh, I'm going to delete it, I'm going to crank it up, and I want to roll coal every time I hit the gas pedal, you're going to draw a lot more attention to yourself than you need to be. When you delete a truck and you're just, you know, cowboy Cadillacing around town, it doesn't really produce as much black smoke as when you start hauling and you have a deleted truck. You're putting it under a lot more strain, the injectors are firing a lot harder, and you will draw a lot more attention. I've seen hotshot guys with deleted trucks, and they will almost have a steady roll of coal.
Trying to haul that 10,000 pounds.
Tailpipe. Yeah, you know, and just like a freight train down a highway. And you may run into a lot more issues when you're at the ports. A lot of the ports are trying to become more CARB compliant and wanting to only have certified clean idle trucks in the ports. But as far as just standard everyday freight, if you're just hauling cars and hauling flatbed stuff and running around, like I said, it is illegal. But I'm not a big fan of after treatment systems. I think they're trash. I think they produce absolutely no benefit for the environment. I think they're actually counterproductive to the environment. So I get rid of them as far as I'm concerned. But like I said, it is illegal. So at your own risk, there, buddy.
Yeah, I think.
But definitely, I would. I've had deleted trucks myself, and you get way more performance and everything out of the truck than you do with the after treatment system. But again, you got to watch out for California. You got to watch out for the ports.
No, for sure. I think something that's super important is, like you said earlier, Trucking Truth, don't just ride in the gray area every time. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't want to give anybody a reason to pull you over in the long run of it. You don't want to give anybody a reason to think you're doing something wrong. Because, I mean, a lot of times, especially with non-CDL hotshot and hotshot in general, like, there's a lot of gray area, you know? There's a lot of, you know, fully unanswered questions. People say, well, I could probably get away with this. Let me try this. And I know guys in the Facebook forums asking, are they pretty strict on how dark my tint is? You know, like, who's really going to pull me over for tint? And I'm like, why are you even playing this game? Like, what's the whole point of this game that you're playing? Dude, just don't get too dark of tint, you know? Put up some, you know, something at night so you, like, block out the windows when you sleep, bro, you know? Like, but don't even give the DOT a reason to want to stop you, you know? Like, I don't understand, you know what I mean? So, especially with how we do things, I mean, I look at it like, I mean, inspections aren't bad. You know, like, if you can get some clean inspections on your record, it's going to look really good for your company. You know what I'm saying? But you don't want to give everybody a reason to pull you over. And then once they pull you over, they start just, like, you know, going down the list and saying, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. And before you know it, you got 5 violations, you owe $2,500 to the state of California, and you got to appear in court. So I'm not playing with it. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. And it's actually surprising. It really is. Tint is... It's actually something that gets a lot of guys. I've had a couple semi trucks. Matter of fact, I had a big sleeper truck. One of the big old sleepers, got the shower and all that good fun stuff in it, and it had limo tint on the driver's windows when I first got it. And I'll tell you what, man, I ripped it off because I couldn't see out the mirrors. You know, you got no rear view mirror in a semi. All you got is 2 side mirrors. That's the only way you can see. And you're trying to look through this mirror, you're trying to look in your mirror, it's raining or it's snowing and it's dark at the same time. It's hard enough to see what's behind you when you're driving in the rain and snow when the mirror is wet and your window is clear. Imagine what it's going to look like when you're trying to back your trailer up between $270,000 semi trucks at the truck stop, and your mirror's covered in water, and you have 90% limo tint. You're gonna be rolling down the window. I can't see.
For sure.
Tint's great, guys, but you know what works even better? Pair of sunglasses.
No, for sure. And another thing, real quick, guys. Strong Hotshot said he's out. Thank you so much, Strong, for being here, guys. Go check out his channel. Like I said, he makes really, really good content. He talks a lot about the logistical side of things as well. So go check him out. Also, I want to say, Mark Bose, thanks for being here in the chat with us. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. Let's go ahead. It's getting a little late here, Trucking Truth. I thank you for your time. Let's answer one more question before we call it. If you have a good question on your side, I'm going to let the questions roll in on mine, unless you have something on your mind that you'd like to say.
No, I think we've covered a lot of topics, man. It was actually really fun. I liked it. I hope everybody appreciated it. I hope we were able to answer some questions that people had on their minds. I've got one question here asking about an app that tells you of hotels with truck parking. I don't. Have you heard of an app like that? I'm trying to think as far as hotels with truck parking. What was it used to be called? We used to have this hotel service. CMs. No, that's not it. What the hell was it? I can't remember. There's hotel services that give you discounts. And realistically, I would just call more or less. I mean, if you're in a Hotshot with a trailer, almost all the hotels will allow you to park across 4 or 5 parking spots. If you're looking for with truck parking, big truck parking, it'll be a lot harder to find, Douglas. So if you're looking at semi trucks, you're just more or less going to have to open up Google Maps and just look at the parking lot or call the front desk and say, hey, you guys take semi trucks. If you're a Hotshot with a 40-foot trailer, like 80% of your hotels let guys with work trailers and stuff like that park. They really normally don't have a problem with that, because a lot of guys that are working on the road, like when I used to work on cell phone towers, we had a pretty good sized trailer that would always be behind us, and we never had any issues parking our truck and our trailer at hotels. And we would stay at Econo Lodges, we would stay at Ramada Plazas and Holiday Inns and stuff like that, and never really had anybody complain about it. Work trucks, that's kind of what keeps hotels in business.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome, man. So A1 Midwest Transport did ask again, Trucking Truth. He asked, what was the name of the company in Chicago that moved the boxes, or what was it, the shipping containers?
That's Dray Now. Yep, that was Dray Now. DRAYNOW. Dray Now.
Dray Now. So that'd be great, because I know A1, he's starting up his business. He's out of Chicago. Illinois is a good spot for Hotshot, my guy, so get a good amount of freight coming out of there. That's awesome.
And if you get one of the, if you're able to get one of those tilt bed gooseneck trailers, the 40-foot tilt beds, there's a company right outside of Chicago, Lift All Lift. It's a company that they make all the like scissor lifts and boom lifts. They rent them out. They actually have a deal with a lot of the snow removal places. It was something I was going to set up when I was doing Hotshot. So A1 will just pass that opportunity out to you. Look around in the Chicago area, out in the suburbs, off of like 90, a little south of 90. There's it's called like Lift or something like that. Lift All Lift. What they do is they get containers in from the yards, and what they do is they drop them off at various shopping plazas in the Chicago area during the end of the year to gear up for the snow removal companies to place all their equipment in each one of these locations. Picking up the trailers at the yard, you'd bring them back to Lift All or whatever the company's name is, and then from there you could set something up with them to bring them back out and drop them off. But it's going to require you to have one of those tilt bed trailers to do that. But it would be very lucrative. I was going to do it. I just didn't have the tilt bed. And then when I started calling around to tow truck companies to have them pull the boxes off, the numbers just didn't match up. The tilt bed would be ideal if you have access to one or can get one before next fall, because that's when they start gearing up for it.
Get it going, A1 Midwest. You got a lot of work ahead of you, my guy. I'm glad to see you here. I'm glad that you're starting your business there. Throttle Pilot said, "Damn it, I was sleeping. I'm here." Throttle Pilot, we're almost out of here, man. I'm sorry. I told you what time it was. You didn't get here on time, bro. Anyways, do you have one more question on your side, or you got nothing? Or are you good to go, or what we feeling?
No, we're good to go. I'm just now answering one last question. It was a really easy one, so I just typed it out real fast. But
cool.
No, I think we're pretty good.
Awesome, guys. Hey, I want to thank you guys so much for being here with us. Like I said, this is going to be probably a weekly or bi-weekly occurrence on my channel. I know that Trucking Truth is starting to get his going as well with other hotshotters. I've hit up about 10 people in total. I've had probably 4 people reply to me. Trucking Truth was the first one that I wanted to have on, but next week we're hoping to have other people on. So keep watching the channel. If you're not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. If you're not subscribed to Trucking Truth channel, please subscribe. He has a ton of information. He knows a lot more than I do. So if you guys need that information, if you're in the Wisconsin area, the Chicago area, over there, the Midwest, like the northern Midwest, he can definitely help you out with finding freight. I know he knows a lot of people. Trucking Truth, I want to say thank you for being here with me, my guy. It was more than a pleasure to be on this this podcast, this Q&A with you. I've learned a lot from you, and I hope everybody here has learned from you. Thank you so much.
No problem, man. I appreciate you having me, and I hope this helps everybody out. And like you said, you guys can always hit me up. If you guys don't know, J Love Flash over here, check out his channel, sign up for his. And if you guys haven't been to mine yet, check it out. I've got some scheduled videos going to be coming out shortly with some more tips and stuff. And as usual, man, yeah, this was fun. This was really fun. I have no problem with it. I would love to do this again.
This quality, guys. Guys, thank you so much. I hope you guys have a great 2021. Message me on Instagram if you need to direct message me. Hit up Trucking Truth through his YouTube, and we can talk to you guys. Thank you so much. Hope you guys have a good